Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Opinions from the Armchair, the one show on the internet that isn't full of because it actually gives a In this episode, I will ask the musical question,
I'm super! Thanks for asking. All things considered, I couldn't be better. I'm a thing. I'm feeling super.
Now before you start flagging my video, let me be clear that I am not talking about putting sex in kids' movies or television. Hey, what did I just say, huh? Thank you. No, I'm merely talking about adding gays as characters in children's media. Something that is rarely, if ever, done, but I think is a step that needs to be taken. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love is all you need. On its face, it may sound like an atrocious, outrageous, enraging idea that will damage kids, but I think it's something that needs to happen, because if they don't, kids might turn out like I did. Growing up, I had absolutely no concept of homosexuality whatsoever. The idea of same-sex relationships was something that had never once gone through my mind, because nobody had ever told me about it. It was never in any of the movies or TV shows I had ever seen. None of my school teachers had ever told me about it, and neither have my parents, because they both assumed I already knew. And so I went on, completely oblivious, until one night my parents decided to show me the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
Not only did I find this film disturbing, repellent, ghastly, and something I'd wish I'd never seen, but Frank N. Furter, an axe-murdering sexual predator, was not a good model for introducing the concept of homosexuality. Well, to be more accurate, it didn't introduce the concept. I thought Furter, the man who loved men, was a one-of-a-kind freak. At some point I officially learned of the existence of homosexuality, but I reacted negatively. Not like someone from Texas, or indeed anyone from Texas, but I thought it was a mental illness, and that I was being more civilized by wanting gays to get help rather than hating them. Eventually I moved past that. But other people, other children, may not be so fortunate. If people grow up as I did, utterly ignorant of the existence and nature of homosexuality, they will eventually find it shocking, bizarre, and even reason that it's wrong, sick, and twisted. Who's to say they won't grow up to be like this? If children are to be spared this fate, they need to be introduced to the concept of homosexuality, but at the same time done so in a way that is not disturbing and doesn't present gays as freaks or as stereotypes. One day, I went to the cinema to see the film Paranorman. Without spoiling the film's plot, I can tell you that 17-year-old Courtney has a major crush on local teenage heartthrob Mitch. She lusts after him throughout the film, but just when it gets to the end, when you'd expect them to get together...
I was thinking maybe we could catch a movie sometime. Nothing scary.
That sounds great, Kathy. You know, you're gonna love my boyfriend. He's like a total chick flick nut.
The first time I saw that, my immediate thought was, whoa, can they do that in a kids' movie? But then I mulled it over and I thought, why can't they do that in a kids' movie? Again, I am not talking about putting sex in kids' movies, merely the concept of homosexuality. It may sound outrageous, but the concept of heterosexuality, the idea of love between a male and a female, has been prominently featured in children's stories for as long as there have been children's stories, from fairy tales to Disney movies. Although they're pretty much the same thing. Now, in today's Western world, gays and straights are finally being considered equals. I mean, in America, they recently legalized gay marriage across the entire country. Now, if it is acceptable to put heterosexual relationships in children's media, and hetero and homosexuals are considered equal, then surely it's just as acceptable to put homosexual relationships in children's media. But for some reason, they just don't. Homosexuality still seems to be treated like a taboo subject around children, something they need to find out about later on. People think children need to be protected from the concept until they're old enough to handle it. But I say, if they are able to handle the idea of heterosexual love, then they should be able to handle homosexual love as well. And that by shielding children from this knowledge, people are creating the risk that, when they are finally exposed to it, they'll react as I first did. But in their case, they may not turn out as well balanced as me on the subject. For the sake of the liberal and equal world that humanity has been striving towards for centuries, I believe people should be told about this at a younger age. And at the same time, they should not make a big deal about it. I mean, it should be like, hey, hey, here's a woman and a man, that's normal, and hey, here's a man and a man, but hey, that's normal too. There should be same-sex couples, but at the same time, they shouldn't be presented as being more shocking or special than regular couples. You know, maybe every child should be sat down at some point and shown this.
Sometimes there's a mother. Sometimes there's a father. Sometimes there's a father and a father. Sometimes both fathers are mothers. Sometimes there's a mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, weird aunties with funny hats, a butler, and old uncles who do nothing but eat rare, smelly cheese.
Rare. Smelly.
And sometimes there's no one at all. But sometimes there are boxes.
Yeah, okay. So that was just a trailer for the box trolls, but you see what I'm getting at, right? So, why aren't there gay, lesbian, transgender or bisexual characters in children's media? Well, I was not able to find a definite answer to that question. The impression I get is that cartoon companies don't want to do anything that will risk angering the parents of their viewers. And I think we all know how crazy parents can get if they think their children are being exposed to sex. But as I've said time and time again, this is about relationships, not sex. And I would think that parents would want their children to grow up to be well-adjusted, open-minded people, as opposed to gay bashers. But there have been one or two very small attempts to break this barrier. You already saw the end of Paranorman with Mitch, perhaps the first openly gay character in children's mainstream media. And, incidentally, the creators of Avatar, The Legend of Korra, decided to make 2 of their characters bisexual. I won't say who. But it was done in a very subtle way, and honestly, I had no idea. Not even in the last episode, when I saw them smiling and holding hands, I just thought, if I didn't know better, I'd say those 2 are about to kiss. I guess that goes to show how used I and the average Joe is to strictly heterosexual characters. But the only other 2 examples I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot, are these 2.
Excuse me, sir. Why are you crying?
Well, I don't know. I was just sitting here, minding my own business, when this tacky little cloud of purple smoke just whisked past me and tore half of my beloved mustache clean off. And now I look simply horrid. Oh!
Can I make an entrance, or can I make an entrance? Well done. You all followed my plan perfectly.
And I doubt if they're really gay. They're just the sissy queer stereotype, and not the sort of thing you want to put into the heads of impressionable formative kids. Well, that was my show. But before I go, and since we're on the subject, there is one thing I'd like to ask of you. What on earth is the attraction of straight men towards lesbian women? Now, I have no objection to 2 women kissing, but it doesn't do anything for me to watch, and I can't imagine what it would do for other men. Now, my brother, he's sort of, a lad. I asked him what the attraction lesbians had for him, and these were his exact words: twice the boob. Well, you know what else has twice the boob? 2 heterosexual women standing next to each other. I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, don't you men get it? When a woman is a lesbian, that means you have absolutely no chance of getting in with her. On second thought, it makes perfect sense, because I'm told men always want what they can't have. Tune in next time for more Opinions from the Armchair.